Good afternoon. Welcome to the third webinar of the European Education Month, organized by the European Leadership Network Europe. This webinar is recorded, as you just heard now. This is a webinar of our consortium, which is organized under the European Leadership Network Europe, supported by an Erasmus project. This is a project which is co-led by the education employers, EFI, teacher trade unions, ET2025, parents organizations, EPA, students unions, OBESU, and ESHA, the school head associations. Also, we have many other members and collaboration partners. We are a consortium of 100 partners of universities, researchers, and different NGOs representing schools and researchers organizations. I am Agnes Roman. I am the Senior Policy Coordinator of the Teacher Trade Union's umbrella organization, ET2025. A warm welcome to our webinar, which is titled Sectoral Perspectives of Collaborative Educational Leadership in the Results of the European Education Area Working Groups of the European Commission. A little bit long title to explain what exactly we would like to discuss here. Just to tell you that it is an interactive webinar. So even though you cannot really switch on your camera and microphone at the moment, after each presentation, we will have a Q&A session. So please raise hand and we will give you the right to switch on your camera and microphone. Also, please keep it in your hand, your mobile phone, because we'll have several Slido questions and we really would like to have your active participation also via Slido poll. Please try to write us very short comments in the chat because it's very difficult to follow while we are also following presentations and questions and answering to Slido poll. The best if you can raise your hand and comment the presentations and pose questions. So our consortium is really working on already for third year to improve collaborative school and collaborative education leadership. And one of the key targets of our consortium work is to support the implementation of the European Education Area strategic objectives. Within the European Education Area, there are a number of targets, indicators, benchmarks, and the Commission and the member states of the European Union agreed in 2020 that there will be many targets for the EU countries until 2025 and 2030. Last year, we read an implementation report, and every year we follow up the developments of the countries by data presented by the European Commission called the Education and Training Monitor. And my colleagues here will share with you in the chat several links to our ELNA consortium work. Please have a look at our policy recommendations, what means collaborative leadership, but also about the European education area and the Education and Training Monitor. Before giving the floor to the first speaker from the European Commission, we would like to open a Slido poll, and this will be open during the whole presentation. So I want to ask the colleagues to open the first Slido poll. Please take your phone or your computer and go into slido.com. You can also use the QR code, or you can use these numbers as a code. And you can only use these numbers once because afterwards there will be 6 questions during this webinar to you. The European Education Area has a lot of targets for the member states of the European Union. And the first question is which European Education Area target have you, your institution, or your organization, whatever you are representing here, or whom, on behalf of whom you are here, or from your personal interest, or your country have been focusing on the most? What are the most important in the education system according to you? And there are several options here, as you can see. The European Education Area focuses on literacy, maths, and science for all, developing digital skills, citizenship education, making lifelong learning and mobility a reality for all, enhancing attractiveness, competencies, and motivation in the education and training profession, so teachers, fostering excellent and attractive European vocational education and training, promoting competitive higher education. But maybe there is something else your organization or country is focusing on according to your knowledge. So you can choose also other, and you can also choose all. So we will keep this poll open. There are already 22 answers, but let's come back to the answers, all the replies later. I would like to give the floor now to Monica Keppe from the European Commission, DG Education and Culture, who is the head of unit for schools and multilingualism. Monica, the Education and Training Monitor in the last year focused a lot about unequal access to education, including urban-rural divide of accessing education, and also problems concerning still students accessing education from disadvantaged background and disadvantaged area. Now the ELNA is focusing on governance, and we would like to help with improving the governance and also to improve the reforms and reach the European education area goal. So what is going on concerning the implementation of the European education area, what the European countries are doing, and what will be the way forward?
Yes, thank you very much, Agnes, for the screen and for the floor. And a very good afternoon to all of you joining today. It's a pleasure to be back at the end of month of webinars. This is not the first time I'm coming to this week. I'm heading the unit that is responsible for school education, which also includes teachers. And I'm mentioning teachers because stronger and more agile governance system, how we work with the member states. Also because we try to focus very much on our field, education and training, but how do we cooperate better with the employment sector, with the economic sector, with the financial sector. This was a very clear call. And finally, a bit about the knowledge gaps. How do we fill the knowledge gaps? Because we also need to bring together sectoral targets of the European Education Area 2021-2025 cycle, the thematic targets also with the Union of Skills. So how to link the European Education Area also with the new the Union of Skills initiative. So what is happening also in the future? We have to continue to provide also a platform for mutual learning also up till 2030. So now in the second cycle that we are entering this year. And this was very clear also, it remains key also for the further development of the European education area. At the same time, we also see also that the further streamlining will be necessary. We need to look at how to reconcile the different horizontal priorities with the sectoral priorities. We will talk about today, and my colleagues Geraldine and Sophia will talk about the green education, very important horizontal target, but equity inclusion is also a very important target that is covering all the education sectors, cannot be just focusing on one area. So building on the achievement of the working groups, the next step will be that setting up the new working groups, renew the mandate, have a new mandate for the new working groups, and reinforce also them in the national reforms, implementation of the key initiatives under the Union of Skills and the European Education Area. Perhaps here I should also mention that the Council resolution of 2021 is still in place and remains in place. It had been foreseen to revise it in 2025. Actually, in the text itself of the resolution, this has been foreseen, both in terms of priorities, but also the EU level quantitative targets. Discussions have taken place there were a lot of discussions also in the Education Committee during the previous Danish presidency. An agreement was also reached at technical level, both about the revised set of strategic priorities and revised level of EU level targets. However, when the meeting came of the education ministers, so the Council of Ministers in November 2025, the resolution could not be approved. And this was, as you can imagine, we need unanimity, so all countries have to be on board, and this was unfortunately not the case. And there was a specific discussion about the target, the mobility target in higher education, which was the one that blocked the adoption of the resolution. Nevertheless, the preparatory work has been done, and the Council resolution will be hopefully picked up by one of the upcoming presidencies. And as I said, in the meantime, the current framework with the current priorities, current targets remain in place. And also based on this, we can launch again the new working groups later this year. So I think I will stop here and I will pass back the screen, Agnes, to you. And I don't know, I might try to put it on at least for once the questions come in, so I can also, people can see me. If it does not work, then I continue without the screen.
Thanks, Monica. It would be nice to see you and also hear you at the same time. If you could try to switch on the, excellent, we can see you. I would like to ask the colleagues, Axel, if you could show us the Slido poll results, because from the 69 participants, almost 40 people answered, and I think they are very exciting. So organizations, institutions, countries, individuals also would like, and they are considering the most important citizenship education. So most participants here think that their country institution focuses the most on citizenship education, then digital skills, then attractiveness of the teaching profession, literacy, maths and science, VET, lifelong learning, higher education. And there were some people who answered other, and I asked it here in the chat, what could be the others. I don't know, Monica, would you like to comment this Slido results? And during that time, I would like to ask colleagues if they would like to ask questions to Monica, please raise the hand now. Monica?
Yes. Let's see if it works now with the camera and speaking.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much. It's really very interesting because last time I looked at the slide, it was the teaching profession, and I see it's still very high, but we have now citizenship education on the top. And this is actually really, really interesting, and it's very exciting also for us. So perhaps here I can mention that we also worked on an action plan on basic skills, and in the action plan, citizenship skills, citizenship competencies actually have been lifted up and said that this is a basic skill, because it's simply understood also that, of course, it's important that young people learn to read and write and the basics of mathematics. But in the current society, as I said, with disinformation, eroding trust in democratic systems, it's so important that we focus on citizenship education early on and throughout during our lifelong learning process. So I find it really very interesting. It's a very clear message to us also to continue working on citizenship education, and we do that. We support a lot of projects also from Erasmus Plus, for example. It's one of the priorities of the of one of the 4 pillars of the Erasmus Plus program. But I would say also in our filling the knowledge gap, in the basis, we are just discussing in the Commission how we could build a competence framework also for citizenship education, something we have for other skills, like for digital skills, we have it already, but not for citizenship. So if this is something that is also the main worry and the main concern, it gives us an extra boost to put even more focus on this topic. Thank you.
Indeed, it's a very good. I am very happy that the participants here chose citizenship education as a first, because I'm afraid that too much shift on basic skills sometimes make us forget how much important it is to motivate students to participate in elections and to explain to them their citizenship rights. There will be lots of national elections coming up, so it's very important, I think. While I'm giving the floor to some participants who raised the hand, I would like to ask Axel and Paz or technical team colleagues, if you could open, please, the second poll. The second question is about that we are here talking in the ELNA about enhanced cooperation and collaboration of stakeholders, including collaboration between ministries and stakeholders. And in your view, which education problems in your country would benefit most from enhanced cooperation between ministries and key stakeholders? Which are the problems in your country which you think more collaboration between education stakeholders would be needed? And already interesting answers are coming up. And while you are answering the questions, I also would like to give the floor to some brave colleagues who would like to really pose short questions. Angel, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Angel. I'm a student from Barcelona and I collaborate with Obesu. And I would like to ask from a student's perspective, what role should students have in shaping school policies or programs? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Angel, from the Students' Unions. There is another colleague who raised their hand, Elodie.
Yeah, hi. I'm also here on behalf of Obesu. Briefly about Obesu, we're the European network for upper secondary school students' unions. And so my question, I have it written down here. How do you see learners' participation in educational policies contributing to the 2030 target to keep early school leaving below 9%, considering its key role in fostering learners' sense of belonging and ownership over their educational pathways?
Thank you very much again from the students. I'm very happy that the students are active in this webinar. I would like to ask others, teachers, school heads, researchers, anyone else who would like to raise a question? Not at the moment. So then I would like to give the floor back to you, Monica.
Yes, no, thank you so much. And thank you also for the questions. And great to have colleagues also from Obesu here. We work very closely with OBESU, and also I think my colleagues who come after me will confirm that in some of our working groups, we also have the representatives of the pupils and students, and this is extremely important. We talk a lot about how to have and include the voice actually of learners, but also of teachers. So I just really wanted to highlight this because I saw attractiveness of the teaching profession coming up on the Slido. I think this is something we cannot do alone. Member states cannot do alone. This cannot work without the social partners, without the teachers, and having a strong teacher voice also in the actions that we are preparing at the moment. So for the participation also of the actions, as I said, whatever we organize also at the Commission for the different events, the different working groups, we have the learners there. And we also try to make sure, because I realized that some of the products that also we produce can be a bit difficult also to digest and read. So we are also preparing, for example, the well-being guidelines that we prepared last year, which is very much about well-being, what are the different actions and factors that also inform well-being, and why this is so important also in schools. So we produce also a child-friendly version of that. So I think this is hopefully helps also its dissemination.
Thank you very much, Monica. There was still a very brave person who wants to ask a short question. Tatiana, I will give you the floor very shortly. And I would like to motivate everyone, please answer to the poll, the second poll, about which problems could be solved with more collaboration. Tatiana?
Yes. Good evening. And my question is very simple. I'm currently in Moldova. We have FEE and ETUC meeting on digitalization in education, social dialogue in this regard. So while we focus on the Balkan countries and Eastern Partnership countries here, we still share examples and experiences what we're having in the European Union. And apparently, the digitalization in education is high on the agenda of the trade unions, as it was indicated, but it is not in the collective bargaining yet. So usually it's done in the rush. I mean, some digital agenda is put, some tools are experimented, but it goes not with a proper social dialogue with the trade unions and even employers of the education institutions, where the tripartite dialogue is present. So consultation, I mean, information maybe it's happening because of course we are aware of what's going on, but it's still that some member states consider that they can and then they're obliged to have social dialogue on their wages, on their working time, traditional topics, and digitalization is something what they can decide themselves. And we argue that this is related very much to the well-being of teachers, with their working time of teachers, with the many aspects which is we consider as traditional business. So how would the Commission see here also in this regard, how the member states could better engage in the real social dialogue, because the impact of digitalization, also AI development in education is tremendous.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Before giving back the floor to you, Monica, I also would like to ask the colleagues to share the answer to the word bubble. And you could also comment, Monica, not only the question from Tatiana, but the participants' answer. So what education problems could be better solved with better collaboration between the stakeholders and ministries? Education reforms in general. Well, it already says a lot. Tatiana, it also highlights your comment, citizenship education. There is radicalization. Yes, indeed, it's related to citizenship education. Impact of social media, again, digitalization. Lots of other teachers' working conditions, reducing brain drain, technologies, AI, help. Help was really highlighted. Help, please. Yes, indeed, the collaboration should be really about helping each other. Monica, how would you comment these topics? Thank you,
Yes.
Tatiana.
Perhaps this, and also thank Tatiana also for calling the importance of social dialogue, which is of course really key. And I just have to say I have taken note about your point also when it comes to digitalization and how this can be strengthened in this discussions. I think Agnes, you will also agree that there are the different sectoral dialogues already, social dialogues ongoing, and I have not seen this particular topic there, but I'm sure it is coming also on the agenda for your discussions. I have to say also digitalization is something, of course, we are working a lot on, and in the era of AI, we cannot ignore this. Perhaps just two things I wanted to mention. We have, I talked about the European education area. I did not talk about the Digital Education Action Plan, which is another big project, a big initiative that was adopted also in September 2020. So exactly at the same time when the European education area, to add also this digital angle. Colleagues, not my team, another team who is working on digital education, have evaluated the results so far, and they are also working on a roadmap on the digital education up till 2030. AI is a very important part, of course, in the discussion. Even because we talk about teachers here also, the current presidency, the Cyprus presidency is also preparing council conclusions on the topic teachers and teachers' work in the era of AI. So I just wanted to reassure you that from all angles, this is very much also on our mind, both from the angle how it can help teachers, how it can also reduce workload. I've seen this administrative burden coming up a lot. Also how it can help with individualized support also to pupils, but also looking at what are the risks, what are the dangers that we have to be, what are the ethical side that we have to be careful about. I also saw the impact of social media here. Digital comes also on the slides. Something I could have also mentioned, another topic we have been working on was an action plan against cyberbullying. And because this is where we also see bullying as already as a big challenge, but now in the digital space, this is coming even more pronounced. Big responsibility, of course, here also for schools, but the platform providers. So that is something that is very clearly coming through in the plan. And on the impact of social media, this is also a topic that is very closely followed also by our President von der Leyen, looking at also examples of other countries, also outside Europe. I'm thinking here about Australia, for example, and even negotiating, constructing a special panel as we speak to really have some guidelines and have some, or even I would say guide rails. Perhaps this is also a topic now that we can have certain restrictions. If you don't smoke, but young people are going on social media early on. So it's a very interesting debate also. So I found it very interesting to see it also here coming up in the Slido.
Thank you very much, Monica.
Education we talked about already, so that and education reforms in general. I mean, I realize that this is something that we need to, we can only do it together. It's an individual country alone cannot do it. This is where we can add the value from the European level as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Monica. Indeed, you highlighted how much the European Commission is working with member states and involving stakeholders and social partners. But I think the frustration of some stakeholders here is like, what can the Commission do in order to really motivate ministries to have more collaborative leadership? And I know on that the European Commission can have a voice, but the competencies are also limited. But thank you very much, Monica, for being here and for explaining us in general what is going on in the European education area. I saw that Daniela had an interesting comment about citizenship, and I cannot read it up all, but I only would like to motivate everyone here to read the Education Training Monitor. I have the printed version. And it's very exciting. And now I would like to give the floor soon to colleagues from the European Commission to present early childhood education related topics. because here is with us with Geraldine Libro, who's the policy officer of the European Commission on early childhood education. And Geraldine, I can see in the education training monitor that most of the European Union countries have achieved the 90% of participation rate of early childhood education, but half of the EU countries did not carry out evaluation of the quality of early childhood education at national level between 2018 and 2023. So quality is really still a problem. And in relation to collaborative leadership and collaboration between ministries and stakeholders, before giving you the floor, I would like to open another Slido poll, an exciting one. If Axel, you could open the next Slido question. How would you rate, all of you who are here representing institutions, organizations, or any country, how would you rate the collaboration of your organization or school with the public authority or ministry on early childhood education policies? Maybe you will want to choose one, which is the worst because you don't work on early childhood education. Please then rather, if you have any kind of cooperation, please rate then that, and don't rate if you are not working on early childhood education. There are already colleagues who are answering, and I think there will be exciting answers. Until we wait for the answers, I would like to give the floor to Geraldine. If you could share us or your presentation about the outcomes of your working group on early childhood education.
Thank you very much. I think you should be able to see my slides now.
If you could make it full screen.
I'm trying. There is some resistance.
It works now.
Okay, great. Well, thanks very much for inviting me. I'm really happy I can present the results of the work we have been doing on early childhood education and care. So the way we call it is ECEC or ECEC. So be familiar with the two terminologies because these are the two ways we usually talk about this sector. I would like to start maybe by just saying that when we talk about early childhood education and care at European level, we're talking about education and care for children from 0 to 6 years old. I want to be precise with that because in some countries, we only think about kindergartens or we only think about creches, but we're really looking at the whole age range for education of the children and all the systems around them. So I want to tell you that all the work we do at European level on policy about early childhood education and care is led by a very fundamental text, which is the Council recommendation on high quality ECEC systems, which was adopted already 7 years ago, which includes the European Quality Framework for ECEC. And this is really leading all the work we do because it defines all the areas which are of importance for qualitative ECEC. It refers to access to early childhood education and care. It's not a given, unlike school education. So making sure that all children and families can have access to creches and kindergartens is really essential. It's also about staff, well-educated staff, enough staff, and staff who are happy to stay in their jobs. Curriculum, making sure that ECEC is an educational moment, not just a babysitting moment. We need pedagogical frameworks which are in place and which are actually being implemented. And we also need to make sure that governance and funding are adequate and that we have monitoring and evaluation systems in place. So when we talk about the working group, I just want to mention that we had in a range of people in the working group. And I give you here the example of ECEC, but I know that in all the working groups, it was the same kind of configuration. So we have national representatives who represent the ministries in charge of early childhood, and they come from over 30 countries. And then we have stakeholders, European NGOs who represent different voices, including the voices of teachers. And we have also European international agencies and institutions like the OECD, UNESCO, UNICEF, Eurydice, and all these people come with their questions, their experience, their expertise, and together we define the questions that we need to work on to implement the quality framework, which I just presented before. So everybody around the table comes with different angles, and together we try to find solutions. I just want to mention as well that today in the webinar, we have Arianna Lazzari, who is from the University of Bologna, teacher on early childhood education and care, and she was one of the experts supporting the working group with excellent expertise. And she drafted a lot of the reports that I will present today. So what have we done? So we have focused since 2018 on various aspects of the quality framework. And I will tell you about what we have done in the last 2 years. We have been focusing on ECEC leadership. We have produced 3 thematic reports, and here you have the links. I guess, Agnes, we will share the links to the slides with the participants afterwards or online. So you will have direct access to these reports. And we also had 3 peer learning activities in Germany, Luxembourg, and Iceland, in which we discuss very specific topics. So the way we work is that we have online and physical meetings plus peer learning activities, and each time we define our questions. And then we look at what research says, we look at the needs from the policymakers, we look at the practices, and together we try to find answers to the questions we had at the beginning. So these 3 reports I will present very quickly. It's just a teaser, an appetizer. We've been working on that for 2 years, so obviously in 10 minutes I can't give you the full flavor of everything that we have done, but this will give you an idea of what you can find in this report. I also want to mention that the work we have done on early childhood education and care leadership is, I think, very much valid for leadership on primary and school education, as you will see. So the first report that we have focuses on the models and practices of ECEC leadership across Europe. It's structured in 6 parts. The first, we look at the definitions of leadership in ECEC, and because ECEC is a very varied sector, very heterogeneous, especially across Europe, who we call leaders and what we call leadership can vary quite a lot. Then we looked at why it was important to actually focus on leadership and to invest in leadership. And we also consider all the functions and the tasks which are attached to leadership in ECEC. And I will tell you a few words about the mapping that we realized. Then we looked at different conceptual models for leadership, including collaborative leadership, distributed leadership, and so on. We also considered the support that the leaders need. And then to finish, we looked at the policy levels to develop collaborative leadership in ECEC systems. So this is all you can find in this first working group report. And now I want to say a word about this mapping. We agreed that leadership, which can mean one person, one team, or whole system, have to do a lot of tasks, and they have a lot of responsibilities which are needed to ensure the coordination of high quality provision of education and care to young children. So in the report, you will find a very detailed mapping. We really try to identify everything people do to make sure that ECEC systems work. So the first important thing that we really wanted it to be the first category is pedagogical leadership. In ECEC in particular, a lot of leaders are actually called to work with children themselves, unlike in primary and secondary education, where this is less frequently the case. So pedagogical leadership is very important in ECEC, to work with children and also to work with their team and to supervise the team and guide them. Then administrative leadership, also called administrative burden in many cases, that relates to all the administrative tasks in relation to staff, to children and families, administrative and financial management of the setting, also health and security regulations, which are very important, and there are very many in early childhood. And also, then we have 3 other categories of tasks which are maybe less often considered. It's engagement with families. This is extremely important in all education sectors, but particularly when we work with babies, toddlers, and very young children. Engaging with the communities, and this will be the link to the discussions we have on collaborative leadership. And if possible, as much as possible, contribution to policy making and research. So I invite you to have a look at the report and see the whole big distribution. It's really impressive when you really sit and realize everything that leaders are supposed to do. Based on that, we looked at all these tasks and responsibilities. Then we thought we would need to discuss the competencies that the leaders need to actually implement the tasks that they have. And then that could lead to improving the training programs which are offered to these leaders. So that led us to our second piece of work, which is our second working group report on competencies and training of ECEC leadership. So we looked at some definitions again, recalling the definitions of leadership in ECEC, but this time with a focus on center leaders. What we call center leaders is a general terminology. It could be head teacher of a school, it could be director of a crèche, it can be many different terminologies across Europe, but basically it's really the head. The center leader is the one person who makes sure that the center runs. Then in this report, we describe the main characteristics of ECEC leaders' workforce and their working conditions. So we look at the age of ECEC leaders, their gender, not surprisingly, mostly women, but also of their working conditions and the challenges which are currently experienced by ECEC center leaders, which may contribute to potential shortages in the sector. So it's really important to understand these challenges to be able to address them. In the third section of this report, we discussed the competence profiles of ECEC leaders, and I will come back to that in a minute. Then we also looked at initial qualifications, work experience, and other professional requirements which are needed to become an ECEC leader. And then we looked at examples of training programs, initial training program or CPD programs for ECEC leaders. The whole idea is about exchanging experiences and peer learning and looking at many different examples. So in the report, we look at a competence profile, and we are actually proposing a competence profile for ECEC leaders across Europe. We have defined it as a competence profile which outlines the key competencies, and that can be skills, practices, values, knowledge, attitudes, which are required for effective leadership in high quality and inclusive early childhood settings. So this is the global definition that we have been working with. But of course, we were a European group with many different cultures, systems, terminologies, and we really made sure that what we propose is adaptable to the local or national concepts and the cultures of leadership and education in each country. In the report, you will see that we look at the benefits of defining an ECEC leader competence profile. We looked at the challenges to design and use a national competence profile for ECEC leaders, but we also provide some key points to design such a national competence profile, looking at the basic principles and who should be involved to develop it. And then we also provide some national and local examples from some cities of competence profiles for ECEC leaders. And then we propose our European vision. And this proposal for a leader competence profile is clustered around 7 areas, which hopefully will help accomplishing all the tasks and responsibilities which are defined in the mapping that we looked at in our first part of the work. So this cluster of competencies are around leadership and management, pedagogy, interpersonal communication, team management, diversity and inclusion, professionalism and ethics, and community engagement. In the report, you will see that we propose a detailed and untangle all these competences to give some inspiration to those local or national policymakers who are designing leader competences profiles. So the conclusion of this second report was that we really needed to have a systemic approach to support the ECEC center leaders. We should have a clear competence profile so everybody knows what is expected from that person. We should have clear qualification requirements, and we should provide strong initial training as well as continuing professional development. And we should make sure there is policy alignment across all levels of ECEC, meaning that what is defined at national level, regional level, local level, and maybe the employers level, which are really active levels for early childhood. The municipalities in particular are very active in defining the job requirements and the qualifications and so on. All of these should be aligned so that we don't have any discrepancies between the different requirements in the country. I want to mention a last piece for this second report, which is that we will have a webinar on 16th of April, which is organized by ECOS, the new platform for early childhood education, which will really go into the details of this second report with experts and policymakers. So it's for free, it's open to anyone, so you can join us to go more in depth into all the things that we have been discussing now. Then we...
sorry, Geraldine, we are a little bit over, so could you please wrap it up?
Yes, I will go very quickly. For the leadership for inclusion, this is really our last piece of work. And this is where we talked a lot about inclusive, collaborative leadership. So in this report, we talked about early childhood education and development. And the idea with this report is that we really encourage all the leaders who work in sectors related to children and families to work together to provide support for the development of the children. So we're talking about early childhood education, social services, health, employment, all sorts of services which come in contact. We explore why it's important to work in a collaborative way, and we explore the challenges as well as the solutions, and we look at the research findings for effective network leadership practices, and we provide some policy guidelines to try to invite policymakers to develop coherent strategies for the development and the education of young children. So this is wrapped up, and I'm happy to answer any question.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. This is very exciting work, and congratulations to the last 5 years extensive work of the working group with your leadership. I would like to listen to this a lot, but unfortunately we really put very short time for this presentation. And I would like to ask the colleagues Paz and Axel if you could share with us the answers to the first slide of poll about collaboration with ministries and public authorities. And also we opened the second Slido question. So the first question was on early childhood education. How would you rate your collaboration with ministries and public authorities? And the score is 3.5. So it's not so bad, I think. That's interesting. 24 people answered, but I guess because not so many colleagues are here, not everybody is dealing with early childhood education. And I would like to ask the colleagues to show us also the second Slido question. What are the main challenges to organizing collaborative leadership in your country to support high quality early childhood education and care? What are the main challenges of collaboration in early childhood education? There is already a lot of answers coming up. And before giving back the floor to Geraldine to comment these two Slido answers, I would like to ask anyone who would like to raise hand. Already there is Debrila from the teacher unions. Please, Debrila, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Agnes, and thank you, Geraldine, for a very comprehensive overview of the work of the working group. It was a pleasure to be on the working group and to work with Geraldine on the issues for early childhood education and care. It was a very informative and a kind of a real learning experience for all, and an opportunity to share ideas, opinions, experiences and practices from a range of countries and organisations. And that was a very valuable opportunity. From an ETU's perspective also, it was an opportunity to argue for the recognition of the importance of staff, and in this case, including the leaders of the early childhood settings, because they are very important to ensure a high quality early childhood education for any system. And then we need to make sure that the early childhood staff are well qualified, well rewarded, well regarded and well supported. So it was an opportunity to have all those discussions, and that was central. And it doesn't surprise me that one of the issues that comes up in terms of being a barrier to more collaboration is the issue of time. Time is both an issue of culture. We need a culture of collaboration so that it becomes normal and part of work, rather than being seen as something that's extra. Oh, I must do more collaboration, which takes time. So it needs to be built in. And the second is the infrastructure, and how do we enable all kind of staff, leaders and people outside the individual settings. How do we build in the time and the facility for that collaboration? It has to be a systems response to enable that to happen. The ideas, of course, come first, but then we have to have the enablers in place to allow it to happen. So that doesn't surprise me that time is a big issue. One, I suppose a direct question maybe for Geraldine is maybe how can the European Commission itself support and maybe show leadership to promote social dialogue amongst all stakeholders, including the ministries and the trade unions, to enable the collaboration and consultation at the kind of the national policy level to agree visions, goals, priorities, to address the issues. And I suppose where does the Commission see itself having a role in supporting that, so that it can happen for all the organisations and the ministries in individual member states? And then having the kind of the secondary part is that together how we can improve the conditions and career progression prospects for leaders in early childhood education, but across the whole school sector, and I suppose the terms and conditions and the support and development and career progression for all staff, because that, I think, underpins a lot of what we are actually trying to achieve in the area. But thank you again, Geraldine and Agnes.
Thank you very much, Deborah. I cannot see any other colleagues raising hands, but already very exciting inputs are coming to the Slido. So I would like to give the floor back to you, Geraldine. Questions are similar as to the previous stakeholder presenter. Indeed, but it seems very bothering for the most of the stakeholder organization is like, how can European Union institutions really motivate member states to have more collaboration with the stakeholders? And here it says main challenge is lack of communication, lack of leadership training, lack of collaboration, time, lack of staff. So how would you comment these answers?
Well, maybe two things. The first thing about the lack of cooperation and lack of time, I think also between the stakeholders to work together in a collaborative way to support children and families. This is, as Dervila said, it's not really a surprise to see this. These are all the challenges that we identify towards trying to build integrated early childhood education and development strategies. We have been looking at ways to go around that. And one of the things I really very much believe in two things. One is the learning communities, is really bringing together people who work with children to get common training. So we started seeing that, for instance, in our systems in the countries where we have creches on one side and kindergartens on the other side. We started having joint training between professionals of the two sectors. And then little by little, we start bringing the people from the school education sector. And little by little, people start talking to each other. And then collaboration doesn't become something additional. It becomes something natural because you know each other. And then you realize that by speaking to each other, you really work better, your work is easier, and you serve the children and the families better. Infrastructure is also very important, as Daria was mentioning, because we have been looking at examples, for instance, of family centers, and these are hubs like where families come and they can find answers to all their questions on health, on employment, on early childhood, on education, on everything they need to know when you are a parent, really. And these structures serve as a wonderful place to build collaborative partnership and collaborative leadership between the different institutions and services. So I think there are a lot of really good examples to explore to build this collaborative leadership, to fight the lack of time, the lack of cooperation, the silos, and so on. Now, when it comes to the social partners, I think it's important to have two-way communication that trust is being built by sharing information and examples on how collaboration with social partners can actually help, looking at examples from for instance, the Nordic countries, where the trade unions have a really important role in training the staff, for instance, and they are very much involved in defining the training needs and supporting implementation of quality EC, working with the municipalities, with the staff themselves, with the families, and making sure that the staff receives the training and the attention that they need to support their working conditions. The fact that we have ETUS and also EPSU, which is the European Public Service Union in the working group, has proved really immensely beneficial, because we hear constantly the voices of the staff in all the discussions that we have. So just mainstreaming participation of social partners in all the discussions that we have, make sure that this voice and this experience is heard. So I think we are committed to have you on board all the time. We've had consultation with stakeholders recently to build the EU teachers and trainers agenda, and we very much value the work that and the experience that you bring. So I think this is progressing well, and this will not stop. This will for sure carry on in the future.
Thank you very much, Geraldine, for the exciting presentation. And I put lots of links here in the chat in order to motivate all the participants here. Please have a look at these reports from the European Commission website and consult them and participate the events, the public events the Commission and Geraldine is co-organizing on this topic. Thank you very much, Geraldine, for your presentation. And I would like to give now the floor to another presenter, the last presenter of the European Commission, Sophie. Sophie Queckenberg. I'm really sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Lots of consonants. Who is the policy assistant of DG EAC on sustainability. And if you could make your presentation full screen. Before that, I would like to introduce again to highlight the importance of the Education Training Monitor report. Before I prepared for this webinar, I was very surprised to read nothing actually about sustainability in the Education and Training Monitor report. There is a lot of focus on digital skills, lots of focus on STEM skills, but not really about sustainability. The way we understand sustainability is not only about an education subject to improve knowledge, skills, competences, and attitude of the learners, the students, about sustainability. But it is also about requiring a change of schools management and education system in general. And before giving you the floor, I really would like to open almost the last slide of Paul, because your presentation on whole school approach provides very exciting ideas. And I would like to ask the colleagues here and all the participants if you could answer to this question. Most probably, most of you are working a little bit on sustainability, so the replies will be more than on early childhood. Where it is easier, according to you, for schools to begin strengthening sustainability? How to strengthen sustainability? Is it vision? It is professional development, either for teachers or school heads or administration staff. Is it about curriculum development only? Building and operations of a school, the waste management, for example. Community, focusing on really raising awareness about sustainability and bringing together different other stakeholders to work with the schools. Pedagogy and didactics, or other. But if you choose other, I would like that you ask the floor later to explain. And now I would like to give the floor to Sophia. We will keep open the Slido poll. Please, dear participants, please continue answering. And how is it sustainability in a whole school approach? I'm excited to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to check, you can see my whole screen and whole slides now? Okay,
yes.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here today. And also thank you to Monica for providing such a good overview of the education area, the European education area, and also to Geraldine for sharing what the working group, the ECEC working group, has been doing. And I'm going to be looking a bit now what our working group, so the working group on learning for sustainability, has been doing, looking at both the whole school approach, kind of this is the title of this presentation, but also we've looked at school leadership as well. So I'll also be diving in some of the outcomes that we have there. And also just a very quick comment on what you were saying about the education and training monitor, just before we dive in. Actually, the previous edition, so the 2024 edition, was really focused on learning for sustainability. So one of the main topics was that. So if you want some of the information and data, so you really should look at the previous edition. So yes, just following up there. Yes, so also I hope you can, I don't think it's changing. No, it's changing, yes. So why do we need learning for sustainability? So it's very clear that we are learning in a changing climate. So children and young people are more and more affected by climate change. There's school closures due to extreme weather events. We see floods, we see increasing heat waves that really impact school continuity and causes disruptions to learning. At the same time, we also see that European citizens really do think that climate change is a serious issue, that something needs to be done about this. We see young people on the streets demanding change. And at the same time, we often do, when we look at some of the data, see that our education system is actually falling short at providing this kind of sustainability education that we need. For example, here's just some data from UNESCO, and there we often see that teachers feel like it's very important to teach on climate change, but they don't feel prepared to do so. So there's quite a gap, especially in teacher education. At the same time, we also see a rise in eco-anxiety, climate misinformation, especially among young people, especially on all these online forums and social media. And yeah, in the broader context this work is situated in is the European Green Deal, which aims to make the European Union climate neutral by 2050. And yes, but we don't think that it's just about political agreements or financial incentives or technological innovations, but learning is very key here as well. So it's really pushing that kind of framework of like, okay, we need this lifelong learning approach to be able to achieve a green, just transition. So in 2022, we have this policy agreement where member states came together on learning for the green transition and sustainable development. And that really looks at how to integrate sustainability in education and training systems across Europe. And specifically, it's kind of making this call to make sustainability a central focus in education policies and programs, looks at both formal and non-formal settings and having access to sustainability education. It also looks at investments in green and sustainable resources, infrastructure, and then lastly, also big focus on supporting educators in developing the skills. As I was saying, there's quite a gap there that we have seen. Yeah, and then some of the visions or how we see learning for sustainability and how we define it as well. It's something that is very much about connecting with the environment. So it's often outdoors, it's often hands-on, it's interdisciplinary, it's place-based. So this makes it local, relevant to local contexts. And it also is socio-emotional. So it's really about tackling those emotional sides such as eco-anxiety, but also eco-grief. And then we also have a big focus on shared leadership, but also the student agency and engagement. So one of the ways that we have implemented this policy agreement is the peer learning between countries. So this is the working group that is very similar to how Geraldine was already describing it. It's a similar setup in terms of stakeholders, in terms of actors. It's just that these are involved in sustainability education. We have both from the education ministries, we had members, and also from the environmental ministries. So it's a bit of a mix. We had civil society organizations, international organizations such as UNESCO, OECD. So it's really a broad range of stakeholders that all come together. And I put down a list of kind of some of the topic we've covered, and you can see there's a lot of different topics we have actually discussed. And those were both in peer learning activities in different countries. We've also visited a lot of different places, as you can see. And then we also had plenary meetings in Brussels. We also had webinars on more like recent topics such as eco-anxiety or misinformation that just was requested by our members as well. And yeah, we also have these working group outputs. So any kind of meeting we had, we would always have an input paper that is actually kind of a background paper that discusses the theme, the topic, and gives some information. And then after each meeting, we draft key policy messages. So these are the key insights we've gathered during our meeting, and we make them available in 24 languages. So this is also really nice for you to have a look at. Yeah, and now we have also final resources because the mandate of this working group has come to an end. So what we've done is to increase the kind of visibility of the working group outputs is to put it in very diverse formats. So first we have this policy compendium, which really summarizes the key messages and it's targeted at policymakers. We also have the fact sheets that are more practical and targeted at practitioners. And then we have an online course, really making it more engaging. And we also have a podcast series with members of the working group to make it a bit more personal, also grounded in the national context. And yeah, so this is just, you can have a look at the compendium. And I'm going to be zooming in on the chapter on supporting school leadership for sustainability, because I think this is most relevant for us here. And yeah, also we have all these 12 fact sheets. So all the chapters will have a fact sheet as well if you just need something a bit quicker to look at. And I think it's also nicely designed. Yes, so the supporting school leadership for sustainability. So I put kind of one of the visuals also from the fact sheets here that is a little bit also similar, I guess, to what Geraldine was describing about the competences for leadership, but it's a bit different because these are from an ENI study from 2025 on what are the competences leaders need for sustainability in school. And there's these four, just very broadly. It's learning to be, so this is personal development. Then it's learning to know. It's about applying this sustainability knowledge. It's learning to change, kind of like Agne was saying as well, about it's driving transformation, it's driving innovation in the school, and it's learning to work with others. So really collaboration, that's important. And yeah, it's really about embedding across all dimensions of school management, so the whole school approach that I'll be focusing or explaining later on as well. And it's about creating a collaborative environment. And you see the school leaders often as the key intermediaries between the classroom and the broader education ecosystem. And I think that's very important. And just some key aspects of what sustainability leadership really entails. We see a very strong values and sense of purpose. So this is also the ethics are quite strong in sustainable leadership, right? Because we're looking at both protecting nature, protecting the environment, but also strengthening community engagement, and then also having this democratic citizen aspect. So we're always looking at the social and the ecological and how they're interlinked, because they're not separated, but they work together. Then we also have a distributed leadership model. So it's shared ownership, both for the goals, but also for the responsibility and expertise. And that really reduces the pressure or like the on the individual person. And it's not limited to formal titles. It's really all staff, student, teachers, and it places a strong focus on student leadership roles and student agency. And I think the higher you go also in the education system in terms of age, the more you can also look at student voice and student participation. And the Eco-Delegate program from France is always a good example here, if you haven't heard of it. And then professional development, also very important, that we need to train and support school leaders in this capacity building. Yes, and then just really quickly about some of the parts we have included in these fact sheets. For example, we talk about challenges and then give a little bit of an idea of like, okay, what's the first step you can take to address this challenge? For example, here, it's if there's too many competing priorities, try linking it with something that is already a priority right now. So example, future ready skills, right? Future literacy, really big skill in envisioning alternative futures for sustainability that might also be quite relevant right now. Yes. And then also we always have an ideas to consider, again, about kind of what's the first step you can take, such as building a team, having a sustainability coordinator, and looking more into that. Yes, and then we always have kind of projects and practice and some further resources you can look at. So I'm just going to go through this very quickly because you can have a look at this later. And then I want to just go on to the whole school approach to sustainability, which really is about not just teaching sustainability, but really living sustainability. So it's about weaving sustainability really into every aspect of how a school operates and going beyond just the school gates, really into the community with the families, as Geraldine was also already stressing. Engagement with families, parents, communities is really crucial. And we have often these 6 key areas when we talk about whole school approaches. So first we have this vision and this common shared leadership in a way. And then the second one, if we look here now, we call it institutional practices. It's often called a bit different. And I'm curious also which one you will say on the Slido poll that you actually find easiest to implement later. And institutional practices, for example, what is the food that's served in the cafeteria? Like, is that sustainably sourced? Then we have capacity building. This is about how the teachers are trained. Then we have community connections. This is about, do we have some involvement with local NGOs that we work with, or some families that are parents that are coming into the school. And then it's curriculum. This is really about the design, the content, what are we teaching on sustainability, but then also pedagogy, which is really important because it's also how we teach it. So how is it hands-on? How can we do it more participatory? How can we do it maybe outdoors, maybe more like an interdisciplinary, connecting different curriculum sections. So there's a lot of overlap between those as well, but it's really trying to see the entire community of the school and the ecosystem even further. Yes, and then we also here, for example, have some resources again, but you will also have a very similar structure and go more into depth there. And here, just mentioning very quickly, programs such as the EcoSchool programs that is run by the Foundations for Environmental Education. And it really has this nice 7-step framework that helps you to plan a sustainability actions for whole school approach. And you also have these recognition and awards, such as the Green Flag Awards and then accreditation as an eco-school. And then UNESCO, and then there's the Dutch kind of Leren voor Morgen approach, if you want to have a closer look. Yes, and then just very quickly, the open online course that we have developed as well. based on all the insights from the working group. It's in 6 modules, and it's very interactive. It has a lot of examples, resources, videos that you can engage with. There's forums, there's reflection. And I just love reading through the forums, because that's where, you know, your peers are kind of exchanging ideas and exchanging their experience and what they have done in the classroom, and it's so inspiring to read. So I would really recommend even just going there to read through the forum to get some inspiration. Yes, and then lastly, we've also done a lot of research and studies, and there we also focused sometimes on especially teachers and school leaders, such as the Eurodis report, which then also informed the education and training monitors. So some of the data that you see there is also based on this report. And here we really see that a whole school approach is already widespread, but we do see some gaps in the continuous professional development, especially for sustainability leadership. But we do have some education system already having these national sustainability school labels similar to Eco School program. Yes, I'm gonna skip this very quickly. This is just green comp. Yes, explainability competences. Yeah, and then just lastly, if you are interested in climate education, and we also have an open community, it's the Education for Climate Coalition. If you want to connect with your peers and exchange ideas, you're very welcome there as well. So thank you so much, and I'm happy for any questions and curious about the poll results.
Thank you very much, Sophia, for the exciting presentation. Indeed, all the 3 presentations were very, very interesting, and I would like to listen to you for a longer time, but unfortunately, we have a very limited time for this. Firstly, I would like to really check the results of the first Slido poll. Axel and Paz, if you could show us about where it is easier in a school to strengthen sustainability. Community, now that's interesting. The first is community, then professional development, pedagogy, vision, curriculum, and building and operations, and others. And I already warned everyone that if somebody is answering others, you are obliged to explain. And also, while you are analyzing these answers, I would like to open the second Slido poll, and I would like to ask colleagues, if anyone would like to raise questions. I already saw raising hand. We have very few time left, but we still have our last Slido question to you. What are the key barriers to effective collaborative school and educational leadership? So what are the barriers for collaborative leadership in your country that hinders progress on sustainability in schools and education systems? So if schools and education systems would like to focus on more sustainability, or they should focus more on sustainability, what are the problems concerning collaboration? Lack of money is already coming up, but I don't want to go into the answers now. I would like to ask those who raised the hands, and I can see again the students, to please, I would like to give the floor to Angel firstly for a question.
I would like to ask, are there any specific example where student involvement improves sustainability practices in a school that you recall from your work? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very short question was. Thank you. Elodie?
Yeah, I wanted to ask sort of what structures in your fact sheets, so for example, student councils, eco committees, and so on, can be strengthened so student input can actually lead to climate action in all member states.
Thank you very much, Elodie, and I'm very happy that the students are leading the questions. Then I can see Tatiana. And I would like to motivate others also. If you would like to have questions, please raise your hand now, because now is the time.
Yeah.
But Tatiana?
First of all, I'm privileged I was part of this group, and thank you, Sophia. It was a very fantastic presentation. I've read already good words addressing you. And my question is that when you look at the pool, community come first and building the last. But in reality, is the easiest when we have this money, EU funding, and for instance, Recovery and Resilience Facility. Somehow the decision is to invest into infrastructure, not into the community building, because it's a really kind of maybe reporting is difficult, maybe to measure the impact is difficult. I don't know what are barriers, but we have to find a way how to support the communities, because infrastructure, at least in Lithuania, is already okay. So, and in the future, probably we have to consider that EU funds are supporting the communities. Thank you. How to ensure this?
Very tricky question, Tatiana. Thank you. I can see no other questions raised. There are many comments, however, in the chat. Thank you very much. But we have only 1 minute left, so I would like to give that 1 minute to Sofia, if you could answer to these questions and also comment these two Slido outcomes, which I didn't even show the second one. So
Yes, no.
sorry, Axel, can I show? Can we see the second Slido poll results? Okay, so what
So the
are
lack
the
of money, yeah.
barriers? Lack of money, top-down reforms, yeah, not surprising. Lack of willingness, lack of leadership training, no understanding of sustainability, no good teaching materials, too narrow focus on STEM and basic skills, short-term thinking, only curriculum focus, lack of parent involvement, vision, generational difference. Let's keep this open until Sophia is answering, and maybe there will be other colleagues who also feel motivated to give us some views. Sophia?
Yes, thank you very much also for the questions. And I was always I was not surprised. I think it's really nice to see community first. And then I'm also wondering if it's maybe also just this community especially that is also very focused on, building community and building cooperation. And that's why, you have a very strong focus on that. Because also like Tatiana was saying, I can see a lot, I think the building and operations was the lowest one, but especially if you have some funds, but even if you don't have that much funds, I think you can be very creative with how you use buildings operations, right? It doesn't need to be, can be a small schoolyard, or we often see, there's quite some inequalities in where schools are situated. And if you have a very urban, area, instead of maybe, going and you don't have a lot of green space, you can actually, look at the roof, or like, you can have these little balconies and that you can make a green roof out of it. So there's a lot of ways, and that I think was also so nice, to be creative and to kind of explore different options. And I think here's also where the students come in. And I think both of your questions were very useful and very important. And I think you asked, where do we see the involvement of students actually helping? And I honestly would say everywhere. Like, I think any project where I can see that there's a strong student involvement and a strong student agency, and we really see them shape and not just, kind of being consulted, but really being a core part of the process, of the co-creation process, we really see a big benefit. And this is happening both on like a higher level as this eco-delegate program where in France, where they have, eco-delegates in every school and they are trained to do this, but also in really small scale projects like this little yacht, or I don't know, they have done murals in the school ground, and it just really shapes, what is out there. And also we do have specific resources on student participation that you can look further into as well, if you want to look into, more structured eco committees and how you can build that up. Because that's not just part of the leadership. We have a separate section just on that. And also in our MOOC, we have a whole section on student participation and action. And I think it's really important everywhere. And I think, this was kind of the questions. And now with the, lack of willingness, lack of money, top-down reforms, I think this is what are the, barriers we see coming up over and over again, unfortunately. But then it's interesting because for the community building, a lot of the times you actually, that's something that you can actually, maybe you might not need that much money to begin with, because all these resources, they're already there, right? You have these opportunities in your local environment, your local surrounding. It's really about finding synergies. It's not even like you don't necessarily need that much money, right? It's asking a parent of like who works maybe on something environmental in their, in their normal work, and asking them to come in and share their work with the with the children. And it's, you know, picking the things that you already have available and looking further into that. And it doesn't have to be something big where you might need a lot of investment, but it's really also building this kind of collective responsibility that we can all share together and cooperate and work on this. And I think that's where we see the strength in sustainability education. So thank you.
Thank you
I
very
hope
much,
that
Sophia.
covers some of it.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for your presentation and for all of your comments. I also would like to motivate everyone to read more reports about these working group outcomes. They are very exciting. But now it is really at the end of our webinars, and I really would like to thank all the three speakers for their excellent presentation and accepting the speaking role. I want to thank the team hidden here, Axel and Paz, who helped us in the technical support. I also would like to thank all of you participants for your active participation, and all the ELNA leaders and partners for all the comments here in the chat and participation in the interactive Slido poll. I would like to ask everyone, please follow up our work. Join us also next week on 25th of March to our last ELNA month webinar, and let's build collaborative school and education leadership together. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.